Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and we have an absolutely massive box right here that has just arrived from Amazon. You know, Amazon Prime has actually been acquiring a lot of the PNSO figures, and actually quite quickly lately, so I think obviously you already know what we have inside this box, but if we just go ahead and open this box up very quickly, we will see what is contained within, as we have ourselves the Spinosaurus from PNSO. So let me just remove this box, get this out of the way, and then we'll bring in the Spinosaurus. And here is our massive box sporting a beautiful Spinosaurus right here on the front. Now, if you are not familiar with this release, this is actually a brand new version of the Spinosaurus from PNSO, but this is a figure that was released prior. This was released in a different paint scheme quite a few years ago, and they have just recently re-released this figure again with a brand new, very nice looking paint scheme. In my opinion, it looks much nicer than the older one from the promotional images so far. But as far as the box art goes, you can see that on the front we really only have an image of the Spinosaurus. That is it. There's nothing else on the front of the box associated with this. And then if you come here along the side, even though I'm going to have to flip it over here because it's upside down, but over here on the side, you can again see PNSO, Dinosaur Museum, Essien the Spinosaurus, 1/35th scale scientific art model. And then if we come over here, you can see 2021 new painting. So even though this is technically, I guess you could say a 2022 release here in the United States, it is stating on the box 2021, but it wasn't released until this year. And then the back, of course, really doesn't have much of anything of interest. It's just a gray background with the PNSO logo and then the dinosaur species name and everything right there. And for some reason, my camera really did not want to focus on that. But let's go ahead, pop the box open now, pull the Spinosaurus out, and check out the new paint scheme. So, because this is a museum release, we've got a nice envelope full of awesomeness as always, and I love that they always put the skull according to which species we're looking at here on the back as far as the sticker goes. But let's try and see if we can do this for a third time in a row without popping the sticker and ripping it. Failure. Didn't get it done this time, but let's go ahead, pop everything out here, and then take a look at what we've got inside. So I think it's safe to say at this point that this is just going to be another situation like we had in the last few releases, where we have a whole bunch of cards that kind of give us a lot of information on the dinosaur itself. If I can open it, because that's always the hardest part, is actually opening this. So we'll pop these cards out here and then take a look, if I can get a hold of them, at what we have inside. So just like I would imagine, we're going to have a whole bunch of cards with all kinds of information. Yeah, absolutely. Probably numerous cards. The last time I think we had like 18 potentially cards of information. And then we of course have these here at the end, which let's go ahead and see how many we have this time around. So it looks like for the Spinosaurus we've got 19 cards of information, and then we have the creative activities in children's spaces after that. So we have quite a few pages for that. And then again, the cards, which are absolutely a must-read when you purchase one of these PNSO Museum Series models. You've definitely got to check all of that stuff out. Tells you a lot of really cool information. And then, as always, we have the booklet. So it seems like these are always set up pretty much the same way, which is good. Nice consistency when it comes to the releases. And then as you go along, again, you've got all kinds of information. And then we will start to get some really nice imagery of the model itself, because we always have kind of like a photo gallery included in here of the dinosaur. So we'll just kind of skip through a bunch. There's another nice image of the Spinosaurus. There we go. We're trying to focus on it. And there we go. We've got some even cooler images. Again, I really love the paint scheme they've gone with on this Spinosaurus. Like, I really feel like this one looks much better than the initial one, which I was a pretty big fan of the first version of this, but I really think I like and prefer the color scheme of this one over the older release. You can see more images. Again, a nice shot of the sail, as well as the fish down here that is deceased or in the process of becoming deceased. I love this too, because we get the early reconstruction of Spinosaurus, and then obviously one of the later reconstructions. And then we have that sneak peek in here, which obviously will show us like sort of what we're going to find when it comes to the posters and everything included within. And we continue through with lots of really cool information and images and everything throughout the course of the booklet. I don't want to go through the whole thing and spoil it all for you, but we will go through the whole thing as far as the posters go, because that will just probably get you even more hyped if you are potentially going to order this Spinosaurus for the awesomeness that you can display on your wall. So straight away we've got quite a number of these sheets where you can draw on if you want to draw your own dinosaurs. So again, some more extras included within this set. And then we set that back there and we bring out the posters. Oh, look at that. Straight away we've got the Spinosaurus that I was just speaking of, the super vintage and old school interpretation of what a Spinosaurus looks like. Man, did we ever think that that dinosaur was really goofy looking back then, but I absolutely love vintage dinosaurs, so of course instantly I love that. And then we've got ourselves another, and these are the smaller posters. So then this was another version of the vintage kind of Spinosaurus. I actually have quite a few, I think they are UKRD or AAA figures. I forget which company it was that makes them. Old vintage figures of the Spinosaurus in a quadrupedal pose. It's amazing how we've gone from bipedal to quadrupedal to bipedal to quadrupedal. This dinosaur is a mystery. It really is, and I feel like it's probably going to remain a mystery for a very long time. And you can see we are continuing to run through the different versions of Spinosaurus as the years have gone on. And it's amazing to me that even though we're just kind of showing off what the Spinosaurus once was perceived to look like, they still give us fantastic artwork, like really high quality, beautiful paleo art from PNSO all the time. And then we've got ourselves a really nice image. That one's really cool, of the Spinosaurus just kind of lurking in the water, creeping its head out, almost alligator or crocodile style. Absolutely love that. That is super nice looking. And then we've also got some more in here. Again, you always have a ton when it comes to these museum series releases. So look at that. Absolutely gorgeous Spinosaurus art right there. That is beautiful. Really nice turn to the Spinosaurus. You can see the rest of the body back here. The sail starting to pick up as the Spino has its head turned toward us. And then the next one is, oh, look at that. That's really cool. Showing off how beautiful and exactly what a Spinosaurus tooth would look like. I love that they add in not just images of the dinosaur, but, you know, sometimes like reconstructions of the skeletal structure or images of like claws. And here we go, actually claws, and I was going to say teeth, but here's the arm of the Spinosaurus leading out again into the hand and the claws. I actually just realized I have it upside down because I am a simpleton sometimes, but there you go. You can see again how beautiful that is. Let's see what else we've got here. And now we've got to look at the foot of the Spinosaurus with some nice webbed feet, which looks really cool. Again, this dinosaur, just another perfect example of how this dinosaur continues to transform as the years go on. And then we've got ourselves a nice look here at a juvenile Spinosaurus, which is pre-sale. Very interesting. Maybe I've just never looked into younger Spinosaurus enough to realize that at one point they may potentially not have had a sale. I always assumed that maybe they just had a very small one, but it's odd that I'm actually just kind of coming to terms with the fact that I've never really looked into younger Spinosaurus before. Kind of threw me for a loop right there. But then you can see here, we can see more of a older version of the Spinosaurus, an adolescent version here where the sail is starting to grow in. Really cool, again, artwork, absolutely gorgeous. And then we're going to get these out of the way here and move on to the even larger posters, which this is always the, in my opinion, most exciting part, I would say. So here we've got ourselves a really large poster of the figure itself, actually, and again stating that this is the scientific art exhibition for the Spinosaurus, and I feel like we're going to get quite a bit of those posters that we had seen displayed earlier in the booklet. So as we move through here, we've got a nice look, again, a nice size chart of plenty of different species in comparison to our Spinosaurus right there. Lots and lots of aquatic species, and then a random human being there. Actually, let me move this up a little bit since we're going to be bringing in a whole bunch of bigger posters. And then we've got ourselves some more dinosaur toy photography, and this time we actually have the older version of the Spinosaurus. So although I will bring the older one in here for the review, nice to get kind of a reminder of what the older one looked like as well. And that in general is some really beautiful photography. And then we also have ourselves, which is going to be upside down. Oh, wow, look at that. That is super nice artwork. Just a Spinosaurus swimming along under the water. I actually really quite like that paint scheme on that one as well. I might have to borrow that paint scheme at some point on a Spinosaurus model when I paint one. And then we've got ourselves... There it's... Oh boy, this one's going to be tough to get in frame. So there we go. You can see a really cool image of the head, kind of like a hand-drawn image of the Spinosaurus. That is a very different style of artwork for PNSO, but that is equally as awesome if you ask me. And then we also have, let's see, another poster going upwards here, showing off the skull and the features of the skull of the Spinosaurus. Some more posters to help educate you on the dinosaur. And then we also have another image of the Spino swimming along, this time showing off how the sail and a little bit of the tail and the top of the head might have been protruding through the water. Imagine just seeing that swimming around out in the bodies of water in the Cretaceous period. That would definitely be quite the experience right there. And then we also have another beautiful image of the Spinosaurus. Look at that one. That is absolutely gorgeous. Again, I really love the nice naturalistic tones of color on that Spinosaurus right there. Very reminiscent, although the paint scheme isn't, the same as the figure we're about to take a look at, but the, darker tones are reminiscent to the one we're about to take a look at, although the one we are about to look at also has a little bit of a flashier paint scheme, I think. And then as we move along here, we've got a look at quite a bit of other species that were potential prey for our Spinosaurus, showing you that there is the possibility that he wasn't only a fish eater, he could have easily enjoyed some smaller pterosaur and dinosaur meals. And then the final one is, possibly and not surprisingly, one of the nicest images that we had seen through this entire thing. It might actually be the best one of a really up-to-date version of a Spinosaurus. Really nice looking artwork as always. This right here, that is the type of poster that you definitely want to get framed and throw up on your wall. So as always, again, PNSO just completely, oh boy, I'm taking out my backdrop back there, but PNSO completely just overloading you with awesome extras. And then we've got ourselves the base for the Spinosaurus. I do believe this is the exact same base as the initial release. I think everything here is exactly the same as the initial release, but just again, new paint applied. So very nice looking. And then we've got ourselves the Spinosaurus itself. And man, is that ever gorgeous. That is unquestionably one of the nicest Spinosaurus figures that I've ever seen. I think the light is just not doing it justice, actually, where it's at right now. So if we throw it here on the base, kind of get a nice look at the Spinosaurus from a distance, that is without question a gorgeous, gorgeous Spinosaurus. I am so psyched to take a look at this new paint scheme, so let's go ahead and jump straight to a closer look at it right now. So we have reviewed this Spinosaurus in the past. We don't need to review the actual sculpt or anything again. We basically just need to take a look at what's different on this one in comparison to the previous release. Of course, if you would like to see a more detailed review of the sculpt itself, you can always check out the previous review of the Spinosaurus. I will include a link in the description, as well as at the end of the video, actually. If you wait until the end of the video, I will throw up a link to that there as well. But as far as this one goes, you can see that we have a lot of really, really nice coloration for the face. A lot of dark variations of brown, and they have added so many variations. It is really quite staggering to look at. You can see quite a bit of darker tones of brown up here on the face, like specifically in the snout. It's so dark that it's almost like a black, but then transitions to a slightly lighter shade, but still a dark shade of brown, and then you can see an even different shade of brown running along there. You can also see a different, almost like a reddish brown right there under the eye. You also have this light kind of a tan khaki sort of off-white color that runs through the face and even runs here under the eye socket. We also get some very dark tones there around the eye, black that leads up into the back of the head there. You can see again some lighter shades of brown, and if you look down here, we also have different shades of lighter browns down here as well as darker browns. Again, there is just a ton of color variation on this figure. This one might be one of the best painted Spinosaurus figures I've ever seen, and also one of the best painted PNSO figures I think I've ever seen. And it seems like they have just lately been killing it as far as their paintwork goes. Like, I've always been a huge fan of the paintwork of PNSO models, but with the last few releases, it seems like they're even better now than they've ever been when it comes to their paint apps. There's also a really nice dark wash applied to this figure, which you can really pick out here running along the lower jaw and all of those scales. Those scales really pop thanks to that dark wash. You can see how nice it is here on the underside for sure. Again, a very crocodilian look for our Spinosaurus. You can also see the little crest up here on the top of the head sports a nice reddish tone of color. Also has been hit with that dark wash. The eyes have a reddish tone and then a yellow and a black pupil. So we have some nice color variation for the eye. The eye also sports a nice gloss coat, so it shines quite realistically. The jaw, of course, is articulated. You can see kind of like a light, sort of a peach type tone here along the side of the mouth. Kind of almost like a flesh tone, and you can see that there's also a nice dark wash included in there, so they've really gone ahead, applied that dark wash beautifully throughout the course of the figure. But I can also pick out like some light washes in certain areas. You can see that the tongue as well sports a nice realistic tone of color, and actually potentially another wash in there on top of that realistic tone. It seems like almost maybe like a dark reddish tone of color inside the mouth. Yeah, you can definitely see that there on the lower jaw. There's definitely some color variation in there. And you can see that same thing there for the upper side of the inside of the mouth. Really impressive detail, honestly. Unbelievably staggering detail in that mouth. But also, again, some really nice color variation. And you can see the jaw articulates really smoothly. Works quite nicely. As we move back here into the neck region of our Spinosaurus, you start to see again some very dark shades of browns, but we also have some blacks that kind of stripe down along the course of the Spinosaurus. And like I was stating earlier, you can kind of pick out some light kind of like khaki washes here and there, which I really love that they do that. I think that's just a very realistic addition to pretty much any model. They've been very good at applying that to numerous different figures over the last few years. Like one area right away, you can see that nice lighter wash is right here in the beginning of the sail. You can see like right in here, you can really pick out that kind of khaki wash. I absolutely love it. It just kind of gives the dinosaur like almost like a dusty appearance in certain areas, but because the entire figure isn't littered with it, it makes it so much more realistic, because then it looks like only certain areas kind of have like a little bit of a dirty appearance. Certain areas look a little bit, cleaner and stuff. Really realistic stuff as far as that goes. You can also see again that we have this nice dark brown up here with the black stripes. We transition to a little bit of a lighter brown and then to kind of like a khaki here for the underside. And yet again, they have given it that nice dark wash, which really ties all of that paint application together and also highlights the detail very nicely. As you lead back here into the shoulder, you can again see different variations of browns, as well as again that light wash that I was just showing off up here runs down into the shoulder blade a little bit. As you move down throughout the course of the arm, again, variations of browns galore, but we also have some nicely painted nails. We have some like very dark gray nails, as well as like blacks there as you lead out into the fingers of the Spinosaurus. It's a little hard to see exactly, but there's definitely some really nice color variation there as well. And I can actually almost even make out like some slight hints of green in the hands as well. And then as you lead up into the stomach, you see more of that kind of lighter coloration, like that light brown that you see up here. You see that throughout the course of the stomach, but there's a really subtle area of like a reddish or like a pinkish tone in the stomach as well. Just again, adding some nice color variation. You see that here as well, right here back as you get close from the back of the stomach into the thigh region. You can see a nice mixture of that brown as well as a light touch of that pink. As you move up into the sail, again, lots and lots of brown variations, as well as this really cool design in this area where we have a nice, very dark black. We also have a really dark red and then a green, just to add a nice element of flashiness to the sail of the Spinosaurus. But if that wasn't enough, as you move back throughout the course of the sail of the Spinosaurus, you continue to see those really nice, very appealing to the eye shades of brown, as well as again that very light coloration there, lightening that area up. And then you also have some more of those stripes that kind of run along the course of the sail that stripe into the sail. Again, really nice, very naturalistic, but really quite flashy coloration for the Spinosaurus. As you move down here into the body, you can see that we now basically have just that really dark brown mixed with some light hints of blacks, but we also again have more of that light wash. You can see it picking up in a few different areas. And then as you move down throughout the thigh, you could see again more variations of blacks and browns, mostly actually I would say blacks leading down the thigh until you reach the front. You could see a different shade of brown, and that continues throughout the entire course of that thigh, moving down into the foot, that really nice webbed foot. The foot transitions from the browns to kind of like a really dark gray, maybe bordering on a black, and you have an alternate tone of dark gray for the nails of the feet as well. And then moving back up into the body, again you could start to see even like some light hints of yellowish browns appearing out here on the tail, which I really love those tones. Also helps to give it a very crocodilian type of a look. And that dark wash continues to honestly look phenomenal throughout the course of the figure. Like, look how nice those scales pop thanks to that dark wash. Absolutely love the way this Spinosaurus is painted. We start to pick up on those very big stripes. The stripes get larger than they were anywhere else throughout the course of this figure here as we reach into the tail. And then again we have that nice light brown that transitions to a yellowish brown and then transitions to kind of like that light tan. But that tan even transitions to kind of like an off-white as you reach further out into the tail. So they really nicely lighten the coloration of the tail up. So it really shines as far as that flashy coloration goes. And you also again have the stripes running the course of the entire tail. Those stripes are super smooth as far as the paint application goes. They've definitely been very realistically and very nicely applied to the Spinosaurus. As you run along the underside, you can again see variation of color even down here as we have different shades of browns, even like a reddish brown there in the chest region. And again, that nice dark wash absolutely is tying everything together beautifully. I just noticed we even have some like pinks right here, or reds in the lower part of the throat. And then the face looks excellent over here. Again, very nice, very consistent. The teeth, which I actually did not even touch upon, but the teeth are also really nicely painted. For the most part, you could see they as well kind of have a gloss coat, and actually looking inside the mouth now, I just took notice to the fact that there is a gloss coat on the inside of the mouth of the Spinosaurus as well. And then moving up here to the back of the head, that light wash is picking up again right there. But over here, you're probably going to see pretty much that same style of paintwork, I would imagine. It all looks pretty much the same overall. Again, nice areas of that light wash that really highlight that scale detail beautifully, but I love that it's a mixture of those light washes and dark washes throughout, which in my opinion really amp up the realism of this paint application and paint scheme. Man, there's even like some nice light dry brushing that shows up in certain areas to highlight the scale detail. PNSO took this one and in my opinion absolutely knocked it out of the park. This is, in my opinion, again, not everyone will share that same sentiment, but this one is far better than the initial Spinosaurus that they had released as far as this sculpt goes. This just looks so much more natural, so much flashier at the same time, but just the overall paint job is just, man, it is so good on this Spinosaurus. Easily one of the nicest Spinosaurus figures that I have in my collection, one of the most visually appealing overall, and it's pretty much exactly what I would like to see on a not only a Spinosaurus, but pretty much any theropod. And then we've got ourselves the base, and the base is an absolutely awesome looking base. Kind of has like a little bit of a sandy look to it because we would have probably be on the side of a riverbank somewhere, and that would explain the fish sitting here, which is our Spinosaurus's meal. But they've added some really nice tones of color throughout to this as well. Some nice lighter and darker shades of almost like goldish browns, kind of sandy type colors, I guess you could say it like that, as well as a lot of darker shades. And the fish itself is really nicely done. It sports kind of like a mixture of browns and greens, but it's been given this really cool, almost metallic sort of shine, which helps the fish to sort of have a wet look to it. The eyes are painted with a black, and then you can see that the actual wounds and stuff throughout the course of the fish have also been painted out, given a nice bloody appearance as well, so that adds another level of realism, I would say, to our base and to our fish. The fish definitely looks like it is 100% dead. No worries as far as that goes. The Spinosaurus has certainly taken care of this fish and put it out of its misery. But again, sculpt-wise, it's phenomenal. Paint-wise as well, it is really quite beautiful. Definitely a giant fan of both the base and the Spinosaurus. So let's go ahead, bring the older Spinosaurus in, and check out the two of them together. So here we have the original version of the Spinosaurus with the newer version of the Spinosaurus. And you can see that the color variation is very different. The newer one has some really nice naturalistic tones of brown. The original one has some really nice naturalistic tones of green, but we also just generally have different designs for the sail and an overall very different appearance for the coloration of the body, but the sculpt definitely seems to be almost the same. I would say it's probably the same, but I don't know if my older one here has kind of warped a little bit or what. But you can see that there's a curve at the end of the tail of my older one where there really isn't much of a curve on the newer one. But I don't know if maybe that's just mine warping. It's been quite some time since I had acquired this figure, so I don't know exactly, again, if maybe that has just, warped on its own, or if that's how the figure is, and maybe there's just a slight difference with the tail this time. Either way, what I can tell you is that although I love the original version, I definitely am a much bigger fan of the newer version. As far as a size goes on the Spinosaurus, it is absolutely huge. You can see for a length you were looking at, there we go, about 19.5 inches or around 49.5 centimeters. So very sizable. Now height-wise, it is up on the base. It would be a little different if it were just standing down on, my review station here, but from the top of the Spinosaurus' sail here on the base, you were looking at just shy of about 7.25 inches or around 18.5 centimeters for a height. So very sizable for a size comparison. There is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, and Robert Muldoon in comparison to the Spinosaurus. Of course, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus is a little bit further forward. If we actually put it back there, kind of sniffing the butt of the Spinosaurus, you'll see that, again, the size is really quite different. Very, very large it would be this Spinosaurus. I'm kind of hoping that PNSO releases their newer Spinosaurus in a larger sculpt. I would love to see that, but for the time being, this is absolutely an incredible Spinosaurus and easily one of the nicest Spinosaurus figures in my collection. So this brand new 2020, well, it says 1 on the box, but I would give it a 2022 year edition of the Spinosaurus because it was only recently released, is absolutely beautiful. Far and away my favorite version of the Spinosaurus, and not only that, definitely one of, if not my favorite Spinosaurus in my collection. As far as the more accurate interpretation of a Spinosaurus goes, this is just off the charts beautiful. Of course, there are a lot of people out there, myself included, that are kind of aching for PNSO to release their newer Spinosaurus, the new smaller one that they have out in a larger size similar to this one, and I would love to see that, but even without them releasing the newer one in a larger size or a similar sculpt to that one, this Spinosaurus is absolutely incredible. The sculpt truly is magnificent. It's been quite some time since I had actually taken my older one down, taken a look at it. I really did forget just how gorgeous this figure is overall, and this new paint job on it is just miles better than the older one, so I'm really happy to now have this new version, which in my opinion is the definitive version of this PNSO Spinosaurus. The paint job that they've given this is just so beautiful to look at. Really, really nice naturalistic tones of color. Absolutely gorgeous paint application. Everything looks like body color. Nothing on this in any way, shape, or form looks like it could be looked at as just paint on a figure. It really looks like body color. It looks like this is the way that this animal is. Beautiful choices, tone-wise, design-wise, and beautifully applied. The sculpt, of course, is fantastic, extremely highly detailed, huge as well, which is something that's always fun to have a very large Spinosaurus in your collection. You have a really cool base with a deceased fish, so of course, adding in extra elements of realism like the Spinosaurus hunting for some fish and stuff, which I also love. The fish itself is extremely highly detailed as well and sports a pretty cool coloration on this newest version. So overall, this is definitely a great set from PNSO. You also have all of those extras, because it's a museum series. A very, very high recommendation from me. So make sure you check the link in the description. Head on over to the PNSO Amazon store or their Aliexpress store. I personally, if you are in the United States, I would suggest the Amazon store because, again, it is up for Prime shipping, which means you can get it very quickly. And make sure you place an order for this fantastic Spinosaurus. And make sure you also like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.